Okay, well, welcome to the training grant office hours for January 18th. My name is Jill Van Pola. Today we're going to be talking about RPPR's progress reports, and I'm going to be walking you through all the nuances that are different from a research RPPR, training grant RPPR versus a research RPPR. They're quite a different animal. And next week, so I wanted to talk about the fact that I'm going to go through the whole entire module with you today, the ERA Commons module, but I'm not going to go through publications. I'm going to save that for next week because that's a whole different animal and the whole MyNCBI process. But I do want to go through the module and the checklist and the quick guide today. So just to recap from our last training office hours. Last week we didn't have training, but this week, or I think it was 2 weeks ago, we talked about data table 7 and 8, appointments to the training grant, and then also the program outcomes, which is your table 8, which is what we are. It's also a part of your RPPR. So that's why I'm not going to go into all the details today. But I'm hoping to do the MyNCBI training next week, but it's also a major deadline, so I'm not 100% sure if that's going to happen. It may have to be the week late, a week later. So anyway, here we go. So today, like I said, I just want to give you guys some tools and resources on how to do the RPPR most effectively. Oh, Sarah, you asked, how do we access previous recordings? It's on my YouTube channel, and I'll send that out. Just as long as you remind me. So I think I went through that. So we're going to go through each section: the cover page, the accomplishments, products, participants, impact, changes, the special reporting requirements, which is now required because of the childcare costs, and then the budget. And I'll show you how to do a budget. So this is one thing I have on the website, and I can send it out. Let me post this in the chat really quick. But this is what I love, a good spreadsheet. And here you go. And so this is when I'm doing an RPPR with my PI, I like to bring up this spreadsheet, and I basically, put notes there, but then I put like who's the owner and who's responsible for each task. So this way you could go through in your ERA Commons module and do this, click this, confirm, da 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 da. And then you have something tangible to give your PI and say, look, you're in charge of section B1, section B1A, blah, 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 right? So to me, that's essential. And it's just good for communication, right? And then you're not going to get down to the day before the deadline and someone goes, well, I thought the PI was going to do that. And the PI is going to go, no, I thought you were going to do that. So I'm sure that never happens to you guys. So anyway, assuming that you guys all have ERA Commons access, but this is how you would log into the RPPR module in ERA Commons. I'm going to pull up one of our PIs that they have an RPPR due, I think 2/1, so I offered to do their RPPR for them. So go ahead and pull up the, and this is in the RPPR module in ERA Commons. Go ahead and pull up the grant, and then you go ahead and click on the grant, and you can see how it says here under the status, it doesn't say it's started yet. So you're going to go ahead and have to click on that hyperlink and then hit initiate. So this is one way you can initiate the RPPR, which is in that module. Or if you have delegation, you can go under the status tab and then see how I have my current delegation there for Dr. Koo. And then I would go to list of awards and applications, and then I could see which progress report is due. So you can access it here or the other way. And again, you'd go ahead and hit initiate. So if you've already initiated it, you would just go in the RPPR module and then, or the status, and go ahead and click the little ellipsis, is that how you say that? And then hit it, edit RPPR. So I'm going to go through the cover page. I think there's some folks on from other UC schools today. So everything I'm talking about is mostly UC school. well, I shouldn't say not everything. I talk about it, everything is general, but there are a few things that are specific to UCSD. So you may not understand that some of my terminology and language, but I think you'll get the big picture. So the cover page is, a lot of this is all pre-filled based on your original application. And when I say KR number here under recipient RD, recipient ID, that is an internal mechanism for UCSD folks. You do need to get a Kowali record for even for these non-competing renewals for the training grants, because it requires a budget. So your signing official is usually our contracts and a HISPO person if you're in health sciences, or your main contracts and grants person. The administration official is your OCGA analyst. So I know that can be confusing, especially if you're in HISPO. A question came up yesterday, like the reporting period here is we're reporting from 5/1/2023 to 4/30/2024. So the reporting period hasn't technically ended, but you're requesting the budget period for the next year. So it can get kind of confusing because you have your total grant here, your total grant project, right? The 5 years. You're just reporting on this period, and then this is the budget period you're requesting funds for the next year. So it can get confusing. Okay, so under accomplishments, this basically should, hold on one second. So I have the little checklist here. So I'm just going to kind of go through, I'm going to go through each section, but I just want you to know, I'll try to designate whether this is like a PI area, and maybe you do something, you do more than your normal for a PI. So, you know, you take it with a grain of salt, but anyway, so major goals, you're going to, you have to put in some text there, and that's usually, I would say the PI would do this. And then usually the PI would answer this question, yes or no. Have the major goals changed? And then what was accomplished under these goals? So the PI is going to have to do some sort of write-up or and do a PDF upload here. If there's any competitive revisions or administrative supplements, you know, yes or no. Now, this section is definitely an administrative section. Programmatic, and this is the biggest section, I would say, that needs to be completed by the administrator. And so it says, what opportunities for training and professional development has the project provided? So you're going to need to include training progress report summaries of each of the trainees that you're reporting on for this project period. It's not all the trainees that you've ever appointed. It's just for this reporting period. So let's just say you have 5 slots. You're going to have 5 trainee different summaries, right? And they're going to include, and there's no form for this, so you just kind of have to wing it, but you're going to have to put in this general information and like their mentor, what kind of coursework they've taken. You can put in their degrees, or if they're degree seeking. I would definitely put in like their research interest, and then their progress on it. What kind of conferences have they attended? Have they done any poster presentations? Any career development, campus-wide activities, grant writing workshops, something like that. So here's just a basic example. Like I said, there's no right or wrong format. It should include these types of topics. So generally on the progress report, I would say this is about 3/4 of a page, sometimes a half a page, sometimes a whole page per trainee. I looked up the page limits just to make sure there is no page limits for this. Now, if you're doing a progress report in a renewal, I believe, I think it's a minimum of 1 page or maximum of 1 page. I can't remember exactly, but those are going to be slightly different rules. So this is just basically the information you want to collect from your trainee. So obviously you can see here, right? If you have 5 trainees, and your deadline is, February 1st to complete this RPPR, I would be reaching out to these trainees maybe January 1st, if not sooner, saying, hey, I need a write-up from you. And I have a form on the website if you want it, just, hey, send them this form and say, hey, fill out all this information, which has all that. So you could do it that way, or you can just send them an email and say, hey, send me these bullet points. You may already know their appointment date. You don't need to know their mentor name. You already have that information. So this is, like I said, this is just a guideline. As far as publications, you don't need to do the whole citation here because that will be cited through my NCBI. You just need to do, I usually just do the title and then the PMID or PMCID. Okay, so B4, again, this is a monster section, right? Depends on how many trainees you have. So the individual development plan, you don't include that for each trainee, but the PI needs to write like a paragraph about the IDP, like kind of the process. And then also table 4, there's 2 more sections. There's table 8, and you may remember table 8 is the table that tracks your program outcomes. So that will need to be included. Like if you were doing a renewal or a new application, same thing here. You're going to need to go back 15 years to include all your trainees and the current trainees that are actually on the grant. So one thing I want to remark about is that I noticed I was working on a training grant recently, and a trainee's name was not coming up on the PDF. And then we figured out why. It was because they haven't been completely processed in the X-Train module. It wasn't accepted by the agency. So if it's not accepted yet, it's not going to show up on your table. So you want to make sure, right? All your current trainees are on that table, and then all your past trainees. And this, of course, is where you would add in your clearly associated. If you had clearly associated students, this is where you would add them in. And generally, clearly associated are added in at the RPPR time. And then you would roll them over into the renewal, and when the renewal comes around, and then you would update their program outcomes then. So I go into great detail about these table 8 and walk you through every single step, but I'm not going to do that today. I will if I have time and someone has a question on it, but because I just talked about that in the last session. And then the last thing, if you have a pre-doc program, the PI is going to have to write some little summary about the statistics on the pre-docs. So this is all collated into one PDF in section B4 and uploaded. And this is the majority of it. It's going to be the administrative burden here, right? This is going to be your baby. This is the stuff that you're in charge of. So the other thing here is also the trainee diversity report. Which I'll also talk about. So this is, like I said, this is what table 8 looks like. It is mandatory to do it update it in extract, and then you transmit it, you hit finalize in extract, and then it automatically gets transmitted to the RPPR and collated within the RPPR. This is different procedure than if you're doing a new or renewal grant. So just to keep that in mind, it's not exactly the same. You don't have to print it out and attach it, or print a PDF and then attach it later. It just, once you finalize it, it gets automatically collated into the RPPR. So again, extract, a note on extract. Extract is not mandatory for new and renewal applications, but it is mandatory for the RPPRs. So, your input, if you're not familiar with, I don't know if there's people on here that are not familiar with extract, but you would be inputting your information in an extract, and then that basically spits out your table 8. So say you didn't use, and I still have some programs that are extract resistant, I should say. They didn't want to use extract for their renewal grant, but they're going to have to use it for their RPPR. So I just tell them you might as well just use it for both, and then all your information is kept there. But it is possible that they submitted their last renewal and they did all their tables by Microsoft Word. So Jennifer had a question about what's the definition of clearly associated. So that is a trainee that is receiving the identical trainee experience that as the trainee that's on the training grant. So let me get a better description for you. Let's see. So say if you have, I don't know, you have a workbench, and I always like to use this as an example. You have two trainees, let's say two pre-docs in one PI's lab, and one of them's on the training grant and one of them's say on an R01 grant, right? But they're receiving the exact same experience. That you can consider, and because it's an identical experience, you can consider them clearly associated. Now, there's a couple different factors here. They don't have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. To be on a training grant, you have to be a U.S. citizen or permanent resident. That is not a factor here when you're doing clearly associated. So it could be a non-citizen. The other caveat is they need to be on some sort of DHHS or NIH funding. So if you have that person sitting next to him on the bench is on an American Heart Association, they are not considered clearly associated because of that funding source. So they need to be like on some other federal funding source. So it all depends, right? You know, so everybody's going to be, every, I would say, lab, you know, is different. Every program is different. I've had some groups where say, you know, some PIs will say, no, the trainee receives a very unique experience. There's no other clearly associated trainees. Okay, fine. Then I won't have to add anything, but I can go into that in more detail, Jennifer. Okay, so extract. So remember, it's mandatory for the RPPR. So, and as far as table 8 goes, so what you need to do is you need to go, you know, you're in the RPPR module. Now you'll need to go to the extract module, and you're going to have to figure, you know, do this, what they call research training data set, RTD, or data table. So go ahead and put in your PI. This is not going to be a new application. It's a continuing. So training grant, put in your PI name. And then you're going to go to that little ellipsis and do prepare for RPPR. And then you'll see over on the side there, you can see I haven't started the RPPR yet. But ironically, we're doing a renewal right now, and I've already started that that RTD. So then here, the great thing about extract here is you can copy what was in there from the last time you reported something. So I'm going to go ahead and copy year 4 over, and that way I don't have to recreate the wheel there. And then I'll just have to do the updates for this year. So same thing goes for if you're doing a renewal application, you can copy your information from your last, you know, progress report into the renewal. So that kind of helps and saves a couple steps there. So this is why I like to tell people to use extract, because you're not, you know, it's more efficient, but you know, that's a matter of speaking, right? So it's going to do this little screen, and then it will come up and it imports all of those people that you just copied over. So here's the list of all the trainees that have been copied over from, say, year 4. And so just go in and basically edit each trainee. And so I go through this extensively, and like I said, in my table 8, when I talked about that, the last training, how to go in and extract and what you need, you know, what the exact instructions are. So the thing here is you will not be updating the publications in extract. That is the difference in the nuance between the renewals or a new application. You would be putting in the publications right in extract associated with that trainee. The RPPR, you do it through my NCBI. And don't ask me why, but so let's say now you've entered all of your information and you're ready to preview the PDF. And as you know, if you've done this, you preview the PDF many times to see if there's, you know, troubleshoot, correct everything. And then you have your produced table 8. Hey, great. You see the watermark is still in there because it's not finalized yet. So now if I was doing, if I was looking at this and say, oh, wait, the initial position's missing, the current position's missing, there's data here that's missing, and this person is not in training, they've left training, I need to go back and fill this in. So I always have a spreadsheet, a checklist. You have your list of trainees here, and then I have my own personal spreadsheet. I cross-check, make sure everybody's there, because if you start to get a long list of trainees, you're going to need to be more organized. So let's say now everything's correct. I'm ready to finalize what they call the RTD. And there's a couple things here, because you're going to get an error message and you're going to freak out, because I know I did the first time I did this. So you have to remember, all trainees must have a start date in the training data section. If they're currently in training, right, you just click yes. You don't have to have an end date. If the trainees are no longer in training, and they must have an end date. So you will get an error message that says, if this person's no longer in training, and you need to put an end date in there, because if you don't, you're not going to be able to finalize this. So that is something, to kind of be cognizant of. And then sometimes if you have a long list, right, you're going to have to figure out, okay, which trainee doesn't have an end date in there. So it's just something to think about. The other thing for past trainees, you're going 15 years back, and they say that for a pre-doc training, especially if they received their degree while they were in training, it needs to be checked off. And if it's not checked, their name isn't going to appear on the RTD. So another one of those little nuances that extract is made people a little crazy for, but you may not remember that now, but this is why I'm here, so you can always reach out to me. The trainee diversity form. Also, we're still in section B4. So you have your table 8, your trainee summaries, and now you have to do this trainee diversity report. There's 2 ways to access this trainee diversity report. One of them is going through the actual RPPR module, and on that section, you can say here, generate the trainee diversity report, or you could go through the X-Train module, and you could pull up your current roster, and then go to that ellipsis, and click trainee diversity report, and then this screen comes up. And so basically, you're going to see here that this all needs to be verified and submitted down here at the bottom, right? And usually I believe it has to be the PI, unless you have, I don't even think if you have delegation, I think it has to be the PI. I always get confused on that. But the one thing here to remember, look, you see here, there's all zeros. So the only way this information gets updated is by each trainee has to go into their ERA Commons profile and update their demographic information. So if they haven't done that, it's not going to be reflected here. And if you have a URM and you want that to be reflected in your progress report, they're going to have to go in and do it. So that is something that maybe when you're sending out that email about trainee summaries, hey, you got to do your trainee summary, and I need you to log in your ERA Commons account and put your demographic or your your disadvantaged status in there. So otherwise it's not going to show up. So I have a lot of questions about that one. So say now, no, okay, so just to make sure I'm clear, when you submit for RPPR, this is automatically going to get collated into the RPPR. You don't have to print this out and attach it. You used to have to do that, but you don't have to do that anymore. So remember, table 8, once you finalize it, it automatically is going to get collated in the RPPR. Same thing with the trainee diversity report. Now there's also, I know with the trainee diversity report, say you need to override, say someone updated their demographics, and you can override this as well. But once the RPPR is finalized, it's final. You're not going to be overriding it anymore. So like I said, you're going to have these two components, but basically that will go transmitted directly. But the trainee summaries, the IDP summary from the PI, and then the PI needs to summarize some data for the pre-docs only. That will all go into one PDF. So now we're still in section B. So I know section B4 is a big section, but that's going to be a majority of your workload, I would say. So section B5, there's still more questions. How have these results been disseminated? Usually there's nothing to report. Again, if there is something, I would say the onus is on the PI. Okay, what plans, what do you plan to do for the next reporting period? Again, PI would input their information there. It's not an upload, it's just a type in text box. And then of course, include any plans for, this is more for research, but there might be some training plans change. So the most common mistakes I see with the RPPRs, and for this particular section, B4, is that the training diversity form isn't done and hasn't been submitted. The IDP, I get this one a lot, or that is not described by the PI. All they just need to do is put a short little statement in there. And then there's, missing or incorrect data from table 8. So this is all on us, right? This is if I assume we're all admins here, this is all of our responsibility. So just from, try to keep this in mind when you're doing this. These are where your most common mistakes will be. So we just kind of went through section B, and it's already 12:30. So we still have all these more sections to go. So products, which is your section C, is basically your publications. And like I said, I'm not going to go into that great amount of detail today, but this is where you would basically, you have a MyNCBI account for your PI. They have a special list just for the training grant. You have to associate your publication with this grant, and then it's going to be reported into the RPPR. And I'm going to be talking about that next week. Again, this is a little bit more. I would like to say, well, with anything else with NIH, it's more complicated than it needs to be, and it just takes some time to explain them. So a lot of these questions are not applicable. Is there a website, technologies, or techniques? No, not applicable. If I was in the RPPR module and you're helping the PI do this, I would just do, not applicable, not applicable. Inventions, patents, usually not applicable, not applicable. Participants. Now we're talking about the participants on the grant. So this is not your trainees. So this would be your PD or PI only. This is not your trainee mentor faculty per se. This is just your, say if you have an MPI, it's Dr. Smith and, Dr. O'Brien or whatever. You have your 2 PIs on there. Those are the individuals, the key personnel in this grant. So you're going to have to put in the level of effort. I usually say it's no, but because there's no paid effort, but I don't believe there's a workaround for this. You have to put in some amount under the person months. And someone can correct me if I'm wrong if you've done this lately, but I used to be able to just somehow jimmy the system and put in a 0, but you can't do that anymore. Usually you're going to have to put in whatever effort they are, which is 5% or whatever, but it's usually unpaid effort by the training grant. If there's any new senior or key personnel, now that would include any new faculty members. So if you have a new participating faculty member, usually there's about 35 faculty associated with each training grant. If you have a new one that came on, you're going to need to include their biosketch here and their other support. So that's just a yes or no question, and then you include that. Now, the changes in other support would be for your PD or PI. So if you have, Dr. Smith has a new grant, active grant, you would go ahead and say, yes, there's a change in other support. Okay. Are there any other new significant contributors? Yes or no? Will there be a change in the NPI plans? Sometimes there could be, right? If one PI is trying to, fade away and a new one's trying to come in, you might want to have an update there. The impact section, this is another pretty easy section. But I just wanted to go through it. And again, if you're looking at your checklist, you can basically see as an admin, you can just be ticking no, 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 and then hitting save. So what dollar amounts of the ward's budget is spent in a foreign country? So as far as I know, at UCSD, there are no other T32s that deal with, we're not spending money in other countries. However, if you were doing like say a D43, which is an international training grant, yes. But generally speaking, no, we don't have any at UCSD. So it's usually nothing, but I can't say, 100%. Okay, we're continuing in this module, right? And I'm hopefully going to go, if I have time, I want to show you like a go live, version. Any changes in approach? This is where the PI would need to describe that. Actual or anticipated challenges, usually not applicable. If you have any significant changes to any of these subjects, like human subjects, animals, biohazards, if they are not reported on another NIH award. Usually speaking, the IRBs or the protocols you have for a training grant are usually it's used from another NIH training award normally, but again, you can't say that blanketly, right? So usually there would be a nothing to report. If it's not, then you're going to have to add something there. The special reporting requirements. So now we have these childcare costs, right? So this is where this would go. So if you have used your childcare costs, you're going to need to upload a PDF here and explain, we have 2 trainees that are using the childcare costs. Now, you don't need to send them any supporting documentation, but you need to keep this information. And I believe you're just retaining this, with the program director. There's probably no central office that's going to retain this information for you. Are the RPPRs the same for the K-12s? They're probably going to be very close, but I can't say 100%. But that's a good question, though. The RCR is very unique to the training grant, so they're going to need to update something here. Your PI is going to have to write something, a little attachment up there. So a lot of this stuff is not applicable. And if you don't know the answer, obviously, just ask your PI. But as far as the module goes, like I said, you're probably going to be the one that's going to go in there and say, no, 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 no. Okay. So section G, you need to go in and under performance sites and make sure that there's a primary one indicated. So you see here, it's like written 3 times. I always go in and like delete old ones. So just so there's one in there, because I just feel like it's ridiculous. So just making sure that's cleaned up. I know sometimes the district changes or whatever, making sure all this is correct. Form components, usually not applicable, which is a good thing. Okay, estimated unobligated balance. So most carryover for T32s, and we're talking T32s in general, of an unobligated balance into the next budget period requires GMS prior approval. Normally, this isn't normal. Normally, you don't carry forward. Now, I'm not talking about unliquidated expenses. I'm talking about an unobligated balance. So if you have a balance that you're trying to carry forward, usually it's like a use it or lose it kind of thing, right? Now, if you're authorized to do that, that's great. But normally, I don't see it at the RPPR time. I'm not saying that it can't happen. So, and then it also asks you a question, is it anticipated that this estimated unobligated balance will be 25% or more? So generally said, again, you don't have you can't carry forward without the GMS approval. So usually this is going to be no. If yes, right, you're going to have to address that. Now, I like to just put this in here as a reminder, what's the difference between an unobligated balance and an unliquidated obligation? So I have this little visual. I'm a very visual person. Say you have a trainee on the training grant from July 1st to, let me start again. Your training period is July 1, 2023 to 6/30, 2024. But as you know, maybe you can appoint a trainee anytime in that period. So in this instance, let's say the trainee was appointed on October 1st and their appointment goes to 9/30, 2024. So see this right here. This is going to be after your reporting period, right? The reporting period ends here, but these are unliquidated expenses, but these are obligated. So this is not considered an unobligated balance. So the questions on that the prior slide, those are all about those were unobligated. Those were these trainee stipends and fees. These are all obligated. So they're just not unliquidated yet. Does that make sense to everybody? I know that could be those are big words that I had to use there, but does that make sense? Because I know a lot of people don't have trainees that are on the exact same date as the actual project period. They're always like off schedule a little bit. So those are obligated, but they're unliquidated at this point. Okay. Let me know if you guys have questions on that. Again, more not applicable stuff. Now, I do recognize that we have people on the line that some of them are fund managers. They do more of the budgetary side, and then there's some programmatic people. So I don't know how your unit is divided up. So some of you will be entering the budget, some of you won't, but I put this in here anyway. So you're going to do the PHS 398 form. There's two options here. So you're going to go in and you're going to need to know this information. So I always, at my website, I always have the current, the stipend levels on there, but I always usually just go out and double check, the stipend levels on the web, right? Make sure that the right around this time is when they're releasing the new stipend levels. So it can happen any day and, hit you, blindside you a little bit. So I always look at the last NOAA to make sure I know, okay, how many trainees are on this grant and how many are budgeted for the next budget year. So I also have a budget template on the website, and for the non-UCSD people, I'll disseminate this out to you. It's a simple spreadsheet. Just that way if you have to do an internal budget, and then you copy it over into the module. So in this particular case, I have, 2 level 2 postdocs with tuition, which isn't quite the norm, and then 2 training related expenses, and then some travel. So this is, again, specific to UCSD, but if you want to modify this for your UC, you're more than welcome to. So this is how you would put it into the module. You would go ahead and enter, okay, I have 4 pre-doc trainees, you can see here, and the stipend level on that, the nurse's stipend level, notification says, okay, they're at 28,000 or whatever. So 28,000 times 4. And then you're going to need to also put in how much their tuition and fees are. So the tuition and fees is your total amount of tuition and fees minus the health insurance. So let me pull up something really quick to show you. Okay, so can you see the spreadsheet, or do you still see the slide deck? Can anybody?
I see the spreadsheet. I see the spreadsheet.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so this is where I'm getting these numbers. So I would go in here, I create this based off the NRSA's current stipend levels, right? But these are the UCSD rates for the graduate tuition or remission, or tuition fees and tuition. So this is the total but then you're doing it less the health insurance. So this is where I came up with that number, just so you're aware. You can also put in however many postdocs you have, level 1, level 5, whatever. But that's where I'm coming up with these numbers. So I know every campus is different, but I just wanted you to know that that's where I'm not just making these numbers up. I do make up a lot of stuff, but not particularly that. Okay, let me go back to my. Okay, so you're gonna go ahead and put that information in here. So for your postdoc stipends, okay, I have 4 postdocs, but I have 1 level 1, 1 level 3, 1 level 4, 1 level 5. Go back to my spreadsheet, that's the total there. I'm not asking for any tuition and fees for them. And then you're gonna have your total postdoc amount, your total stipend amount here, and then your total tuition and fee amount here. And then you're going to go ahead and add in your travel. In this particular IC Institute, they allow $2,000 in travel per trainee. So you put that in here, your training related expenses, and then your total direct costs. And then, of course, your indirect cost base, and then your 8% IDC. And remember, your indirect cost base does not include tuition and fees. Your total direct costs are listed here. So everything should match the spreadsheet. Budget justification, you need to upload a budget justification here. So any questions on that? Usually we don't, at UCSD, we don't have any training grants with subawards. Very unusual, but it does happen. Okay, so let's pretend, kids, that we finished everything in the RPPR module. That your PI did everything. I've uploaded my section B4. I've I've done my training diversity reports. My table 8 has been finished. So I'm going to go ahead and check for errors. And then, oops, I have 5 errors. And I'm not going to be able to submit this, right, until all these errors are corrected. So usually the big one is the RTD is not done from extract or the training diversity report, or some section, is missing or whatever. So remember, you have to correct all those. It's going to run a validation check and look for that extract upload. But if there's a warning message, you can go ahead and submit with a warning message. So then I obviously keep a record for yourself. Then you're going to have to go back to your whatever your processes is. Do you need to route this now to your SPO, your contracts and grants person, and they route it to the agency? I'm not exactly sure how you guys are all, your delegation of authority, or do you submit it directly based on your authority? So that's kind of the overall picture there. So yeah, like I said, then it could be the PI. We used to do it with the PI submitting, and things change all the time. So this is the website I was referring to, and I will send this out. If you're a non-UCSD person and you want affiliate access, which I give to all the time, let me know. And I'll also put in, I gave you guys the checklist I'll put this in here too. Oops, hold on one second. Okay, I'm going to put the budget in here. Okay, and then I also have what they call a quick guide. I like cheat sheets and notes. So the quick guide is just basically goes over everything that that is like different than your normal research RPPR, because I'm under the assumption that you do research RPPRs. And if you think it's the same animal, it's not. It's going to be slightly different. So I kind of just highlight in here, this is where things are much different. Your publications are much different, right? So anyway, that is the quick little guide. Again, some things are not going to be applicable to you per se in your job role, but they are. Okay, so it's 12:47. do you guys want me to go through an actual live ERA Commons demo? Or do you want me to answer questions right now? A demo would be great. Okay, you win, Corinne. Okay, so I'm going to do the exact same one that I was just, and you guys can see my ERA Commons screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So glad to know that somebody's there. Okay, so we're going to go to the RPPR.
We're here. We're here. We don't want to interrupt you, like I'm doing right
I
now.
know you're there, Leona Flores. I definitely know you were there. Okay. It's so much easier to talk in person, in my opinion, than on Zoom when you're presenting, because you can pace around, you can walk around, you can make eye contact with people. Here you just see a bunch of black screens and you're like, huh. Okay, so I've already initiated this RPPR, so I'm just gonna go ahead and edit. Hi, Leona. Okay, brings us to the cover page. So if you're a UCSD person, you're going to need to put your KR record in here, your recipient ID. I would go ahead and make sure all this information is still correct. Hit save. Okay, so let's go to accomplishments. And the first couple questions are mostly for your PI. So you can do expand and collapse. B1, B1A, B2, B3. Remember, B4 is this monster. That's probably going to be your last thing that's inserted in there. But say if okay, how, you asked your PI is, whatever, this question, and they say, okay, there's nothing here to report. Just go ahead and click it. And then we'll hit save. But, if it's going to require their input, I would just include that checklist and, just sort by PI and just say, hey, this is all that you are responsible for. So you can, and so this is interesting. I forgot about this. So for the major goals, it pulls up what was listed the last time, or it was unlisted in the initial application. And so, the PI can just basically review that, which is kind of nice. So let's go to products. Now that is where you have the MyNCBI, which we're going to talk about next week. And again, that's basically your publications here. A lot of this stuff, it'll say right there, not applicable for you. So you don't even have to click yes or no anymore. And usually this is going to be a nothing to report. So we'll just hit save. You can always go back and change that if that is not correct. But, my philosophy with my PIs is they do the research. I want them to be doing that. And I'll do, as much administrative burden as possible. So if it helps them for me to go in and, check all these boxes for them or insert their information, that's fine. Whatever your work style is. So what individuals have worked on this application? I have my 2 PIs here. So you would need to go in and edit and put in exactly how many person months they have. Now I think I'm going to say 0.05, or it doesn't like, this one always annoys me. Yeah, and then you have to make sure it says no. Okay, was updated. Okay, so now you can see. It used to be you could, if anybody knows, if anybody on the call knows, there used to be a way you can get around doing that. But so this is go ahead.
I always put 0.01 on it,
Okay.
but that's just, I don't know if there's, as long as because it doesn't let me
It only goes 1 decimal, so you can do point.
Oh, maybe 0.1. I put the lowest possible amount.
Yeah, that's what I used to do. But then, yeah. So
Yeah.
Again, it depends.
As long as there's a number in there, it doesn't care.
It's something. Yeah, you can't. If it says 0, it's not gonna like that. So
I think it has to add up to 1, at least 1 month.
So technically,
No.
I'm sorry, Carol, what was that?
I
couldn't hear
think
you.
it has to add up to one. You
To
have to
1
put at least a
month.
one. Yeah, I think, because otherwise you'll get an error, I think.
It's possible.
I've,
I can, go ahead,
I
Ollie.
my last 4, I've only put a fraction in, and it always goes through as long as it has a number in it.
Cool. Okay, good to know. We'll change that
Yeah.
next time.
So I'm gonna put in here, yes, just for, there's gonna be no reduction, but next budget period, 25% or no. Is there new training faculty? I'm gonna assume yes. And then you're gonna add in their BioSketch and other support for your new training faculty member. Has there been any active support changes for your key personnel? I'm gonna say yes, and hopefully, your PI got a new grant, and then you go ahead and upload their new other support document there. No. And then the NPI plan, will there be a change in your NPI plan? And then I would go ahead and hit save. I'm not gonna hit save just because I did make quite a few changes in there. Okay. So impact, same thing, a lot of non-applicables, it's already grayed out for you. Nothing's going to a foreign country. And changes, again, double check with your PI. Is there any changes in approach here? Nope, nothing to report. I'm gonna just say nothing to report, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Okay, special reporting requirements. This is if you have that childcare, someone's used that childcare. Let's just say no one used that. Your RCR, your PI is going to have to include something here, so that there needs to be some sort of write-up here, and all these little other sections here. So your performance site, which is here, because I'm anal retentive, I just want one. So I'm going to clean up all these older ones and just have one, because that looks normal to me. What else? It's probably gonna give me some sort of error because I did not do that. Oh, okay. Anyway, your budget, if you were gonna go ahead and enter your budget, I already started the 398 budget. But otherwise you would just do the drop down, and then you go ahead and basically, I know we proposed for 4 pre-docs and 4 postdocs. These are the levels of the postdocs. You have your spreadsheet, so you can copy the numbers over and then hit save. Actually, you're putting in your budget justification, don't forget about that. So I'm going to go back to my grant list, assuming that everything has been done. And I'm going to pull up my PI again, and then I'm going to do an error list, check for errors. There's going to be a ton of them. So my ellipsis, check for errors. And you have 20 errors. Oh, only 14. That's not bad. But, obviously you have to correct those. And the biggest ones are going to be, you didn't finalize your extract, your RTD, and extract for your table 8, the training diversity report, because, a lot of that is wrangling. You have to wrangle your trainees to go into ERA Commons and update their demographic status. So a lot of that is just, you're waiting for that last trainee statement, and then our summary, and then you can upload your V4. So of course, you can always view the RPPR as a PDF right now, and then then you're gonna have to start your whole routing, getting it routed. So we're at 12:56. I don't want to keep people, I know I'm talking really fast. Do you guys want me to go into extract at all right now? I think you guys all should be experts in that by now, but you never know. Or we could do that next week. I have to go now, but thank you, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Oh, thank you, Kylie. Bye. So, yeah, I know I want to respect people's time. So we can always go into that later, but I did put those on the slides. I'm going to put the slides on the website. If you're non-UCSD, let me know and I can get you affiliate access. If you're part of the consortium, and we will be posting, we do have a website for the consortium coming, which will have all this information. The recording will be on YouTube. Jennifer, let me pull that up really fast. Here, let me
Do
stop.
we need any access to that, or will it just be, I can just go to the link and click on it?
No, Jennifer, are you UCSD or non-UCSD? Sorry.
No, I'm UCSF.
Oh, UCSF. Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
No, for YouTube, no. Let me pull that up really fast. I can put that in the link.
Got it. Thank you.
But if you want me to get you affiliate access, I'm more than happy to do that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think I'm okay for now. I downloaded the documents that I was interested in, but I would like to have access to this when I have to actually do my RPPR in
Okay.
April or whenever it is.
So here is the YouTube channel.
Perfect. Thank you.
And then so I have all of the old trainings. I can't speak today. Trainings on there. So if you have any questions or anything, but like I said, I'm trying to do another website just for the consortium that is open faced and we don't have to worry about any kind of, passwords and all that. So
Yeah. Okay.
it's in
Thank
the
you.
works.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
I have a question for you, but when you're done.
Oh, okay. I can stop recording. Is this a non recorded question, Tanya?
It's a question related with my department with OCGA, but it's not related